Hey everybody! In today's video, I'm going to recreate something that I bought for myself in the 90s when I was working in Maine, and I still have it to this day. These are little covered matchboxes that you can give as a gift. I'm starting with this amazing new ink from Stazon. This is a pigment ink, but it's also permanent because it is Stazon. But what screamed out to me when I saw these inks is these are the perfect inks for gel press prints. Because as you know from one of my recent videos, if you're stamping on top of paint with regular ink, the paint is always going to show through, but not so with this fun new ink. So I have a few backgrounds here, and I'm just going to use a couple of colors of this ink. And I have a stack of my gel press prints from previous videos. When you're doing this, you'll want to look for a print that will look good in a smaller focus because the matchboxes are pretty small. So you'll want it to either be very, very abstract, or you'll want there to be enough detail that'll show up in a tiny little format. I have my extremely dirty MISTI here. I should apologize to everybody for that. I did clean it after this video because I felt so guilty. But it is what it is. I'm a working artist. Sometimes my stuff is dirty. Actually, all the time my stuff is dirty. Now, as you know, I like to print on copy paper. That will be listed below. It's an ultra smooth copy paper. But sometimes that means you have to use a couple magnets to get that held down in your MISTI, and then do always check. This is a very detailed background stamp, and I'm going to use it across all three of the prints in different colors, just so that they have a little bit of continuity. You could give them as a little gift set of 3 if you wanted to. So on this first one, since it's sort of a darker print, I chose the white ink. I'm just pressing that down. You can stamp it a couple times if you need to, and I do need to here. It looks like I didn't get a good enough pressure on the top. On the bottom, you can see how crisp it is, and that the ink works great on top of slick, non-porous acrylic paint. Now, they said the drying time depends on the substrate on the package, which makes sense, but I just set mine aside and they were dry by the end of the video. So depending on what you're stamping on, just take a look at it, see if it's still shiny. It will work on all the things that Stazon works on, regular Stazon works on, so any non-porous surface is fine. But the beauty of these to me really was going over acrylic paint and still getting a very crisp stamped image, which is very hard to do. Now I have it in place. I'll give it one more go. I like this sort of looks like waves. I was working in Camden, Maine. Some of you may know that. It's a beautiful little town. When I came across this gorgeous little matchbox, and it was done with hand marbled paper, which was also really beautiful. So it had that sort of antique book look. You know how there used to be marbled page inserts at the beginning of some books? If you want some trivia about me, I worked as a rare book preservation technician at the Rush Rees Library in Rochester, New York. And I learned all kinds of things from that experience. And one of them I will be using today. But I got to see the insides of lots of books that had that beautiful marbling. And so I fell in love with this little matchbox when I found it in a gift shop. I was living in Friendship at the time and working in Camden, eating lobster rolls every day for lunch. And now I'm going to put the orange on the pink. Y'all know I love orange and pink together. And you can see even on the gold, it's hard with the lighting here, but you can see how well the pigment ink stands up to even that shiny gold paint underneath it. And this will give, like I said, a little continuity to the 3 boxes. Now the way I'm going to cut this up and I'll put measurements on the screen, is, so you can see it shiny there. So it's still a little bit wet, but it'll be dry in just a couple minutes. But the way I'm going to cut it up, the scraps that are left over from what I'm actually using for the boxes will cover both the inside of the top of the matchboxes and the bottom, and also the ends of the boxes. So no matter what you're looking at, what direction you're looking at the matchbox from, all you see is beautiful gel press print. So in general, this is just half a sheet of copy paper is more than enough to make a covered matchbox, the liner for the lids, and the drawer front for the little box. Now I wanted a turquoise one on at least one, so I chose this yellow background. And it has a little bit of a very similar teal to the ink that I'm using in there. And so I thought that would give it a lot of harmony. This pigment is a little bit darker than the first two that I used. So you'll see a lot more detail in that open yellow area. The other two prints were a little busier as well. So look at that. That looks amazing. It stamps very, very crisply. I think you'll be very pleased with this. So let me show you the other two. So here they are with that same pattern going across all three, and we'll be focusing those down. Now I have some little pieces of chipboard here, and I've cut down the gel press prints and also adhered them to double-sided adhesive, so that it would just be easier to put the chipboard down and wrap them around. When I was working at the library, we very frequently had to make boxes and protective covers for our books, and we did it out of a material called buckram, which is sort of a cross between a paper and a fabric. And we used, archival glues and things that kept our very rare books safe. But I learned a lot of these little tricks, and it reminds me of that job, which I loved. It was one of my favorite jobs I've ever had. And so it gave me a little happy memory when I was doing this. Now you take your pre-cut piece of chipboard and put it down, sticky side up, and then just burnish it. These Teflon bone folders are great for this because you can apply even pressure with that straight end. And then you'll want to cut across, but not right at the corner, just across the corner, and leave yourself just a tiny fraction of some paper sticking out beyond the corner, and you'll see why. That will make sure there's no white sticking out of the corner. This was our old bookbinding trick. So I'll cut those off, and then it's like Christmas Vacation trying to get all the little sticky things off of my hands. And don't worry if it's not perfectly centered or any of that. None of this is going to matter. So I just fold into the sticky. This is just my habit from working in the library. And see, I'm stuck like Christmas Vacation. And then burnish that little edge down there, and that thing won't go anywhere. Now you just want to take your fingernail and just push in. I found it easier with my finger than the bone folder. Just push that little piece that's left just so it covers the corner. You don't have to fold it all the way over, just a little tiny piece that covers it before you fold that side down. And that gives you a very finished, very professional look to your miter. So if we were not gluing this on a matchbox and you were creating something where you'd be looking at this side of it, this will give you a super professional finish. You can't see anything. All the chipboard's covered. And this is how it looks on the box of matches. So you can see it overlaps a little bit, 1/4 of an inch. And then I have enough scraps left to do both the bottom and to cover that open chipboard part. So here's what they look like finished. I love these so much. This is so much more interesting than a box of matches. And you can see I've covered the end and I've covered the inside, so there's no white showing. Now you'll notice that I can't really tell which side is the open side of the box of matches, and you don't want someone dumping their matches all over the floor. So I have a little trick for you. I'm taking this awesome shimmer stick. It has a dauber end, and I'm going to make the right side shiny, all sparkly and shimmery, and I will just tell the person I'm giving it to the shiny side is the right side up. And that's just a very subtle way without putting, hey, dummy, this side up on your beautiful little box that you've just made. But look how sparkly that is. This stuff is going on everything. And because the Stazon pigment is permanent, I'm not disturbing the ink by rubbing this little shimmery dauber on it. And you'll see in the still photo how sparkly they are. This one to me looks like a topographical map because it looks like land and water. I love this one. It'd be hard to tell between this and the pink one that these weren't some kind of abstract landscapes. They look really, really neat, and I'm fascinated by all things maps. So here's what they look like, and you can see all the shimmer and the shine. God, maybe the pink one is my favorite. And this really dresses up just a very simple gift for someone. So here are the finished matchboxes. Thanks so much for watching.